Hi guys, hope you're well. I've got a really good guest today. It's someone that I only met relatively recently, and we'll get into kind of how we met and stuff. But again, this whole kind of live stream and podcast is all to do with trying to share the stories of real, interesting people that have kind of good stories to tell, things that I think people will find interesting, and then also we kind of dig into the business side of whatever it is they do, how it works, with the idea that we can kind of share knowledge, inspire some new people, kind of talk through some interesting topics. I always like to hear their kind of backstory and that kind of thing as well. And yeah, so a fantastic guest today. I'll let him introduce himself just so I don't get it wrong. But Joe, just 1 second. So Joe, would you like to say hi to everyone?
How we doing, everyone? My name is Joe Maphosa. I'm a 26-year-old professional boxer from Teesside.
So I'm trying to think where to start. So for instance, when did we met? So we actually met via a guy called Steve Gordon. And this was, where was it? It was Neanderthals in Stockton, I think it was.
That's
And it
the
was
one.
prior to
That's
your
the one.
fight at Newcastle Eagles Arena.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I thought,
obviously,
I was going to say for me, when it was almost the first time we met, and it was to do with getting tickets for his fight, which was the next day or that weekend. But we started talking about some businessy stuff and longer term. And I always had a plan to do what I could to kind of, we always plan to kind of set up and talk through business type stuff. And I guess now we get to do it in a cooler way, just with lockdown and different things. So how's lockdown been treating you?
for myself, to be honest, it's been quite boring, but at the same time, it's been good in the sense that I've been spending a lot of time with the little one, my partner as well. I've been getting to just relax and having that good quality time with the family. But apart from that, I haven't been training much. Just one session a day here
Okay.
and there.
See, to most
Obviously, the,
people,
the
one
gyms
session
are
a day is
completely.
still a lot. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for me. Obviously, the gym is closed as well. Nothing really to look forward to in the sense of any fights coming up as of yet. So it's just everything's just been put on hold.
Almost, it's an interesting point actually, because your career is boxing. That for me, I still work all day, every day. So literally, I kind of come off doing work stuff, set up the lights and the cameras, and then go. So I don't get any time off. But actually, I can imagine if you're in an industry, which I guess you are, where you've almost had time off forced on you, I imagine it's quite difficult to deal with.
Definitely, because every two or 3 months we'll get the new fight dates, and we have to work towards that fight. So training camp will start, and we've got a routine. So all that's just gone out the window, with the whole lockdown and
Yeah.
with what's happening around the world. But obviously, we just have to follow the guidelines and listen to the Prime Minister and the NHS and just stay at home.
So can I ask kind of how you got into boxing? Almost, I'm guessing you started at an early age.
For myself, I was age 13
Okay.
when I first started in boxing. Is a bit late, I'd say. Some people they normally start a lot younger than myself, but me and my family, my dad brought us over to the UK 2002, just for a better lifestyle, really.
Can I
I
ask where
came
your
from
family's from?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad was a maths teacher, and he just wanted a better life for everyone, really. And he got a job opportunity over in the UK, and then we landed ourselves in Middlesbrough. It was pretty odd, different, completely different lifestyle, but we soon quickly got used to it. And I'd say from the age around 13, I was always into fitness anyways in school. I always used to do football, used to play rugby, I used to do tennis, everything really. I was just really an active kid.
See, I
And
must say,
a
because
few of my friends, they were.
I was going to say, because I grew up in Liverpool, nobody plays rugby. It's all football and that's it. And it just, so it wasn't until like later life at uni and stuff, it's just, I think in different parts of the world, they're kind of into different sports. And just before the call, we actually discussed what colour Joe wanted the background. So he said red for the borough, which we kind of set up
That's
as
it.
well. So,
That's it, up the borough.
so did you just try loads of different sports and then somehow find your way into boxing?
Yeah, what happened was I went to a boxercise session one time
It's
near
tough.
area where I lived. Yeah, it was really tough actually, but I sort of I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fitness side of it. And I quickly got the hang of the combinations and movement on my feet. That's when the instructor sort of recommended me to go and join like a real club, where I went to Middlesbrough ABC, and that's where my career started off, really. I never looked back since.
With what were you like at school? And the reason I ask this is that so I grew up in Liverpool, and some of my mates at the time, we'd go out on weekends, and some of them were always looking for a fight. And I know that it's the mistake that people always think about boxers and fighting, but I'm always intrigued. Were you kind of, I was a bit of a troublemaker, but almost, were you kind of a good kid, or did you get into a few scrapes, or?
I'd definitely say I was a nice guy.
Okay.
I was a nice guy. I didn't really go out looking for trouble, in a sense. I mean, I had one or two fights, as you do as you're young. But to be honest, I always kept myself to myself. But the boxing side, it was more just the fitness that I really enjoyed at first, anyways, rather than really getting down and dirty and fighting. So that's where that started.
Yeah, I've got friends that do kind of taekwondo, that kind of thing, and some of them did it to kind of channel their energy, because again, it's very physical. And I find this as almost if you had a really kind of tough day and you're physically tired, it's great to just get your energy out. And I guess boxing is an incredibly, would you say it's arguably the fittest sport? The most physically intensive.
I'd say it's definitely up there as one of the harder sports, one of the most intensive sports, because you're using your whole body. You're thinking about your opponent not hitting you, and you're thinking about hitting them. You're moving your legs, your arms, you're dodging punches. It's all happening quickly as well. So that brain energy, it's a really difficult sport, I'd say.
So you obviously you went to school, joined your first boxing club, and then what was your journey through to your kind of first fight?
So from there, it all happened pretty quickly. I think the coaches noticed that I had the natural talent, the natural ability just to get in the ring, and I felt comfortable in there. And for me, I think within 3 months, I was having contests with guys that I've fought maybe 15, 20 times, and I was winning those contests, and that's what really gave me the confidence to think, you know what, I can go somewhere in this sport. Because when I first started off, it was more, I thought, oh, let me try it out, let me see what happens. I wasn't thinking I was gonna get there or be at the top of the game. So it was a really good start to the journey.
Because I must admit, so I coach basketball and play basketball as well, and I think you can tell as a kind of a sports coach almost just inherent ability in people, hand-eye coordination, movement, that kind of thing. And then, so talk me through it. So how did you eventually kind of discover or be discovered by the GB team?
So when it came to the GB selectors sort of noticing that I had the talent, it was through the national championships. So every year your coach would enter you into the national championships, and I was winning tournaments, and I was getting to the finals, and I was competing with guys that were already on the Team Great Britain squad.
So what kind of age was this?
This was when I was a senior, around 17,
okay,
18, around that age. That's when I started entering the senior championships. But I think when I was 20, 21, that's when I finally got selected to come for trials for the team, and I excelled. I had to go there at least take 4 trips, where I had to show my skills and really show that I had it.
And you trained in Sheffield, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, English Institute of Sport. I don't know if you.
Yeah, because I used to play basketball in the same place, and the boxing section's near the men's near the change rooms, isn't it? As where the big sports halls, where you've got the athletics track. And I always used to find it quite inspiring just to go to a place where, in Sheffield at the time when I first went to uni, it was 2002, and it had just started to get to kind of some European funding, but it wasn't necessarily the nicest place in the world. And then over the next kind of 10 years, it got loads and loads of investment. And yeah, so I don't know, GB Sport, whoever built this thing called the English Institute for Sport, and it's this massive complex. It's got a big outdoor kind of arena, and basically I'm guessing it's one of the best kind of facilities in the country. And it wasn't like uncommon that you would see Jessica Ennis training there. And again, obviously it's mostly sports people that go, but it was always inspiring. And obviously prior to you, I didn't know any boxers, but I just love it when you kind of get, there's a good vibe about the place. And it's, so how did you find, was that the first time that you lived away from home?
Yep, it was. Prior to that, I used to just train at a local club. I'd go home, see my family. But when I got selected to join the team, it was more or less a week on, week off sort of training camp. So I'd go there Monday to Friday. We'd have 3 sessions a day where they were really, really tough sessions, grueling sessions. And you were going against the elites, the best in the world. And you had to sort of show them that you were up to that level. Otherwise, the next person coming in, he could take your position. So it was always very competitive on the GB squad, which I liked, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember when I was kind of growing up, I was okay at basketball. It was never the best, but there's like some of the Northwest teams are sometimes short for the kind of England juniors level. And I remember getting a phone call on a Sunday basically saying, Steve, they're short. Do you want to come and train with the team? And I was there just to make up the numbers. But as you do, you really want to impress. But I'd just had a full roast dinner, but I wasn't going to turn it down. And basically then I remember going to this trainer and just running my arse off. I was doing everything I could to sprint and just, I just wanted to fit in. And then there's these things called suicide drills where you basically go, it's sprints. And we were made to do it twice.
Yeah.
And I finished in a good time, but then went over to my bag and threw up in the corner. And it was at that point where, I think, because again, most people, I guess that they do or they don't know, you have at the proper elite level, you have to have elite level fitness, but it's all, most of it's the mindset as well. And, so say with boxing, how much of it is pure physical strength and speed, and how much of it is almost the mental game, if that makes sense?
I think the mental side is massive. I'd probably say the mental side, you need that more than the physical, in my opinion, because they say you can be beat before entering the ring. A fighter can get in your head at the weigh-in the day before or just before you go into the ring. He can beat you there and the fight is done then. So you have to be really strong mentally to progress in the sport.
I'm a big fan of Tyson Fury. And I must have originally, when he first fought Klitschko, however long ago that was, I didn't like him. I thought he was a bit too abrasive, but over time he kind of really warmed to me. And I read his book recently and he was talking about, I don't know if you've seen this, and it was when he was a junior coming through and he was sent to Germany to train with Klitschko in his training camp. And they all went for saunas, and basically he was told, look, Klitschko is the sauna king. He has to go in first. He has to come out last. And, play by the rules, don't annoy him. And basically, there's a really funny story in the book where Tyson, and he started the mind games arguably 10 years earlier, and he was determined to outlast Klitschko in the kind of in this sauna. And basically, he just started to get under his skin so much in advance. And then when he says that he finally came to fight him, he almost knew. Obviously, there's some swearing in the actual kind of book, but he knew he could get to him. And I think it is true that it's you often see in sport, if a team is going up against a bigger opponent, it can break people in advance, and I've kind of seen that. Can I ask, almost related to this, what kind of lessons do you feel that boxing or sport has taught you about life or that kind of thing?
I'd say definitely boxing has taught me a lot of lessons, and one of them is to be resilient. Just keep going, keep going. It's taught me to have a hard-working mentality, because if you don't put the work in, you're never going to get to the top of the sport. Because the next person, your opponent, if he's working twice as harder than you, mm-hmm. you might be physically a better fighter, you might have the better attributes, but if he works harder than you in training camp, when it comes to fight night, he could win that fight. So it's taught me to really be hard-working and really dedicated to my sport.
No, awesome. Do you ever get to mentor kind of younger boxers?
Not officially, I wouldn't say I've mentored before, but I do get messages now and then from younger boxers who are in the sport and looking to come up the ranks, just asking me for just basic advice, and I'm always willing to do it because that's where I started as well. Yeah. So it's a really good thing to do for the younger ones looking to come up.
Because I think it's almost a leadership point that it's great to do and give advice, but then it's great to help people who are they obviously look up to you and what you've done and what you've achieved, and it's cool. Because with my guest who was on the other day, her name's Charlotte, and we were talking about, so she was a swimmer, and we were actually talking about how a lot of the skills and stuff that you can learn from sport to do with leadership, hard work, resilience, which really kind of play off in business. So, at some point longer down the road, and we'll almost kind of get to it later, I imagine a lot of the stuff that you've learned will be huge traits that are massively valuable, to either a company or if you ever kind of set up on your own. Going back to kind of the Sheffield GB kind of days, did you ever get to meet any famous names?
Yeah. Luckily, when I was around, Anthony Joshua, he used to train at Sheffield as well, and he was sort of just halfway through his professional career. So we got to see him train 3 times a day. I got to room with him a couple of times in the flats. So it was really interesting, to see this guy who's an Olympic gold medalist, is well known all over the world, but then he's in person, he's just a really humble guy. He's just very down to earth, and he'll just talk to you like you're his friend.
Did you meet him before he went to the Olympics? And also, which was that 2016? Are we talking about, or is it 2012?
He went to the 2012
Okay.
Olympics.
Because actually,
that's when.
So my wife and I, we also went to the 2012 London Olympics, and we went to see, it was Anthony Agogo, and we went to the Excel. And it was brilliant because one thing that we loved was that you had the kind of the wives and girlfriends literally right next to us screaming. And actually, kind of on that point, do any of your family, I guess your friends, come and watch, but do your parents ever come and watch you fight?
Yes, they do. I mean, my dad has always been there from day one. He always came to support me. But when it came to my mother, she was a little bit apprehensive at first. She didn't want to see her son getting beat up or anything in the ring, so she didn't really want to come and watch me fighting another boy, in sense. But over time, I think it gave her confidence when I was coming home with no black eyes, and I was winning contests, and I was enjoying myself as well. I was telling her, you should really come and watch me. She started coming quite a lot, and it was good to have their support there.
No, cool. So in terms of what kind of weight level are you? What division?
I box at flyweight or super flyweight. I mean, with this whole lockdown thing, I don't think I'm a flyweight right now. I'll have some pounds to shed when I get back in the gym. No, but that's my category.
Because when I got to see you fight in Newcastle, you are exceptionally quick. And it was almost, how do you, what do you think your strengths are, if any, that you kind of know you've got the edge over your opponents?
I'd definitely say one of my strengths is speed. Like you just said there, we're always working with my coach, Andrew Burton, my strength and conditioning coach, to improve it some more. So I'd definitely say my speed, and I'd say my ring IQ. Okay. I've been doing a lot of studying on like old fighters, and the likes of Floyd Mayweather, how defensively sound they are. Yeah. So I'd say them are my main attributes.
So do you find it an advantage to control the middle of the ring and kind of, or I guess does it depend on the fighter? So do you actually kind of vary your style based on who you're fighting?
Yeah. I think in the sport you have to be able to switch it up. You have to show a different angle, because one time you might box an opponent who comes forward and they're really strong and you can't match them for strength. So you have to, move your feet, box in and out, use your jab. And then other times you have to sort of go forward and really take it to the fighter. So it's all about having that variation, in your arsenal, so you can win any match presented.
No, cool. Do you mind if I ask you about training camps? It's one of those things that it's funny. I class myself not as a big boxing fan, but yeah, I watch all the big fights. I've got DVD box sets and stuff, but can you talk us through your average kind of training camp?
Yeah, so an average training camp, I'd say, lasts from anything from about 8 to 10 weeks at a time. You'll be training full time. That means 2 or 3 sessions a day.
And then that what kind of sessions? Are they strength?
Yeah, so
fitness, everything.
Yeah. So the sessions could vary. Normally on the morning, you'd wake up, you'd go for a run. Either it's sprints or a good long run, maybe 10K, maybe something like that. And then after that, your second session could be doing your strength and conditioning with your coach, working on your speed, your agility, your power, lifting the weights. And your last session, obviously, the boxing side comes into it, where it's really tough on the pads, long rounds, sparring, long rounds on the heavy bag, abs as well. And then by then you're knackered, it's time to rest and go again.
So it's basically, what's the peak physical condition you can get in for 8 to 10 weeks time for that one fight? No, it's cool.
That's
interesting.
Definitely.
So you go through training camp. I'm guessing do you do your homework on the other fighters? Get any footage you can see, almost reputation, what are they good at, what are they bad at, and how you kind of work around that?
Yes, that's something that I've picked up from the amateur days. We used to do it quite a lot, even at GB in Sheffield. We used to watch your opponent, previous fights that they've been to, previous tournaments, and you just study them, see what sort of weaknesses and strengths they have, and what you can do to sort of get advantage. But over time, my professional coach has said to me, we don't really watch tapes, or I don't really watch tapes. He does the revision, and what he says to me is, as long as I'm 100%, as long as I'm ready, the rest will come. So I just work on myself now.
Because like applying that to business, it's almost a lot of companies and people, I don't think spend as much time as they should looking at their competitors, because whether they like it or not, they will be good at stuff, whatever the stuff is. And almost, if you can acknowledge those strengths, you can still play to yours. But I think, there are some really kind of good links with sport in general and kind of business. So you kind of go through training camp. Talk me through the kind of day of a fight and the build up to actually kind of go into the ring.
So for myself, on the day of the fight, I like to sleep in as much as I can, just to get a couple of hours extra rest.
So this is assuming, say if your fight's at 9 o'clock, what time would you sleep in till? What is a sleep in for you?
I'd probably wake up around 9, 10 a.m. Okay. That's a sleep in for me. I'd always make sure that's well rested first of all, and I'd get my nutrition in next. Start loading up on my good energy foods. Not too much, not overdoing it, overindulging, but making sure I get my rice, my oats, sweet potatoes, that kind of stuff. Sort of midday-ish, and then as it gets a little bit later on during the day, around 3, I always try and have a nap, try and relax, just switch off completely, turn my phone off. Don't get no distractions, just relax completely so I can save my energy, because I believe that there's only a certain amount of energy that everyone has, and I need to focus on just letting it go when it's time, and that's in the ring. So I have my nap, I wake up, I watch maybe 10-15 minutes of some inspirational stuff, some videos of likes of Roy Jones Jr., look at some really good fighters, Floyd Mayweather's, and that's about it. We head to the venue and we get ready to go.
Do you do kind of visualization? Do you, obviously you know what that is, but it's almost where do you imagine the fight, or do you just kind of get motivated and then go for
it? I'd say during the training camp, when I'm going through my shadow boxing, or even on the bags, I think about what my opponent's going to do, what I need to do, and I sort of visualize steps ahead. Just try and be one step ahead of the opponent when it's time to get in the ring. But one thing I do like to do also, which I didn't mention, during the camps and on the morning of the fight, is listen to motivational tapes as well. So the first thing I do when I wake up, I'll get something on like a Les Brown or Tony Robbins or something like that on YouTube, just to give me that boost.
No, it's cool. It's very cool. With this being like a business related kind of show, I guess, do you mind if we talk about like kind of the business side of boxing a little bit? I know we've discussed it in the past, but I think people really kind of find it interesting. And then after this, we'll touch on sponsorship and stuff, which we'll kind of cover in a second. But almost how for a fighter does it work? Are you classed as self-employed?
Yep. So with professional boxing, we are classed as self-employed, and we do our own taxes, and sort of the way we earn money. There's two different sides to it. So at the lower end of the sport, when you're first starting off, it's mainly on ticket sales. That's how you make your money. You have to sell enough tickets to cover the cost for your opponent, to cover the cost of the manager, they take a cut. So it's really tough at the beginning. There's not that much sort of money in the sport then. But as you go further on in your career, if you're doing well, you could get signed to a big name, either Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Sports or Frank Warren with BT Sport, where you'll get a set contract for each fight. And that's when you'll be earning sort of decent money, like a good living wage. Oh, cool. And it just goes on from there, really.
Because it was when we were talking about last time, it was almost the fact that if you're a boxing promoter, you arguably have lots of people that are self-employed that pay their own wages, and it seemed like a very good business model to run events, because arguably, you get half a cut of the ticket price, but actually you only have to sell a certain number of tickets. So it actually seemed quite interesting. Would you like to? So you're also sponsored. You've got a few different sponsors. What does sponsorship mean to you?
I think to myself, sponsorship is really important, or to any fighter out there, because sponsors, they help us out a lot throughout our journeys. They help to cover costs where it comes to medical costs. It could be traveling expenses. You might have a training camp which is somewhere down the country. You need to travel for 2 weeks or something, or even abroad. I've been to Spain for the whole week of sparring, to find the right quality sparring partners. Sponsors, they help you to really concentrate on your craft without having to go out and look for a full-time job. So, and for me, I think if you're going to get the best out of it, you really need to be putting the work in the gym. You can't be juggling the two. So sponsors, they're a massive part of the journey.
Because when we spoke first time, it was almost from a business point of view, people sponsor people or events or things because they want to be seen and associated with the positive benefits related to that. And basically, I imagine the people that sponsor you, they like who you are, they like what you do, they like how you go about things. And again, it's good publicity for them, but it's also great that actually enables you to follow your craft, follow your passion, follow your career. So it's almost a really kind of good win there. Related to that, and also because I understand how this kind of works, do you want to, because we've put 3 of your sponsors on the screen, so if you want to do a quick thank you to anyone in particular, you can just go nuts for a few minutes.
I just wanted to say a massive thank you to all the sponsors that have been with me on my journey. I'd like to thank CPD Bodies, and I'd also like to thank Imperial Recruitment. I'd also like to thank S&E Care for all the financial support that they've helped me with, especially through these times right now. With the whole pandemic, what is going on, I'm relying on them massively. So I just wanted to say a big thank you.
Your ambitions, like longer term, you were tempted about kind of business type stuff. Is there anything you want to kind of talk about?
Long term for myself, I've always thought about investments, and one thing that I do like is the property game. I've been sort of doing my research, speaking to some people already to sort of give me some good advice on how they started and how I can get started and who I should be listening to. I just started reading a book that was recommended by one of your friends that was on one of your shows. Charlie, yeah, he recommended me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, it's a good book.
I'm halfway through that right now. Really enjoying it, but property is definitely one thing I'd love to get into in the future.
Because it's funny that with the amount of people that have reached out to me to then reach out to Charlie since he was on has been ridiculous, like in a good way. But then actually what's been really good is that I only interview people that I know are good at what they do and like they kind of know their kind of craft. But the feedback elsewhere, so he's done not well at it, but I like connecting people that I know. And then likewise, I guess with yourself, it's almost where some of the chats that we've had, I guess it's important to, if you can, raise more sponsorship because it allows you to keep doing what you're doing. And it was almost, definitely. I think there's a lot of companies that would really benefit from what you do. I think you could have a sideline in kind of motivational speaking to really kind of help educate people the journey, what you've been through, the mental toughness to go into the ring, the kind of GB squad, and that would genuinely kind of inspire a lot of people. And I think companies, would love to do that. And then I'm going to help you as well any way I can to help you raise sponsorship with people I know, some of the kind of more corporate kind of sector, just because I buy into what you're trying to do, the way you do it. I love how open and honest you are. It does really kind of come across. So if it's any way I can help, I'm definitely going to kind of do it as well.
No, I really
Before,
appreciate that,
no, it's
Steve.
good, but it's the right thing to do. It's yeah, no, it's cool. So I always ask everyone, almost as you've kind of gone through your career and all the lessons you've had and everything you've kind of done, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
The best piece of advice I've ever had, linked with boxing, is by a guy called Shannon Briggs, former world heavyweight champion.
Hmm.
He was doing a talk in Middlesbrough, I think it was last year sometime, and he said to me, "You really have to study the game. Whatever you're doing, you have to study. You have to know it inside out. You have to know your opponents. You have to know the right foods to eat. You have to know the right training methods. So really study whatever craft you're doing, and you'll become the best at it."
I think that's a great one. And actually, you could apply that to anything. You could apply that to business, and it's just no, that's a very good one. I like that. So similar, if you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick kind of whichever age you want, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so the advice I'd give my younger self is definitely never to beat myself up too much. Don't get down too much. When at first in my career, when I took some losses, I used to be really down for days and days. But now when I look back, those experiences that I went through, they're the ones that are helping me now in my career. So everything is a lesson. You just have to learn from it, and never beat myself up.
I
That's
think
what
that's
I'd tell my younger self.
I think that's a brilliant one. I've had, well, I guess everyone has ups and downs in their own life, and it's in hindsight after the kind of storms passed, and you look back, you realize actually it's all of the bad times actually makes you stronger. And it's some of the worst times in my life almost are the things which I now most cherish because it made me realize certain things or appreciate my family or whatever. So no, I think that's a spot on piece of advice. So what's next for you apart from kind of surviving lockdown and trying to get back to training?
Yeah, so as of now, we've been given the update that possibly the boxing events might come back in July. This will be behind closed doors because obviously what's going on right now with the coronavirus and everything like that. So fingers crossed. But I'm not too sure. It's not concrete. It's not concrete because we don't know what's going to happen next week or the week after that. So all I have to do is just keep myself relatively fit,
Hmm.
keep ticking over with my training, and just hope for the best, really. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely wanting to fight again. Hopefully, back end of the year, or even get another 2 fights in and get that title fight that I've been wanting for a long time.
No, cool. Well, I know that almost whatever you do, boxing or not, I think you'll do really well. I think it's, often people recognize good people that have good moral intent, that work hard, have grit, have determination. And I think, so almost if you go into property or investing or whatever, I think you'll kind of do really well. Thank you for your time today. I knew I wanted to get Joe on from like the second I met him. And I think you've got a great story to tell, which will help inspire a lot of people from Borough or otherwise. And it's just, no, I appreciate your time. Stay safe. I'm sure we'll kind of stay in touch. And yeah, thanks again.
No, thank you very much, Steve. Also, I just wanted to say thank you to my coach, Imran Naeem, who's helped me so much in my professional career. Thank you to all the fans that have backed my journey so far, and also the sponsors. Thank you very much for backing my journey.
You do have a big fan base. I remember in the build up to your fight, Twitter just exploded. And I think it's, a lot of
No,
people from Borough kind of celebrate local heroes, and I think you're definitely one. So onwards and upwards to the next fight. I'll definitely kind of track your progress. And yeah, stay in touch.
no, definitely. Thank you very much, Steve.